All right, welcome into another edition of the 2023 MLB Draft Show. This is a good one. So we got Jacob Wilson, Grand Canyon University shortstop, the pride of Thousand Oaks, California. Jacob, welcome to the show. Excited to have you, man.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So first question, always start with this question. Tell the viewers, tell the listeners, who's Jacob Wilson on the baseball field? Kind of what are some of your pillars on the diamond? And then a little bit about you off the field. How do you like to kill your spare time? And, what are some of your hobbies?
Yeah, I know. To start on the field stuff, I'm always a guy that goes out there. Always kind of, I'm very passionate about the game. Kind of like just going out there, kind of giving it all I got in between the lines. Very kind of, I guess, loud. I like talking a lot. Like kind of communicating on the field. So just for me, I guess I'm just a very passionate player on the field. You can always see me working hard. Kind of giving it everything I got in between the lines. What I said, but kind of just main thing for me is just being passionate. Just having fun. I like to be a guy that kind of looked at as having fun on the baseball field. So those two things right there have been kind of my main things on a diamond. But off the field, I love hanging out with friends, kind of just do wherever you can. In Phoenix, Arizona, there's not too much to do. Just kind of hang out with your friends, go off campus a couple of times, go do whatever you want. So, for me, I like hanging out with my friends, kind of doing a bunch of stuff that they want to do.
Absolutely. Well, I got to start with this because, at least people that pay attention to college baseball, people that pay attention to the draft, know Jacob Wilson as the guy that you cannot strike out. You cannot strike out Jacob Wilson. So, from your point of view, how much does that mean to you? I mean, how much of your identity is wrapped up in the fact that you're going to put the ball in play?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, always growing up, my dad's always taught me just don't strike out. That's never been, my thing. I've always hated striking out. I know for me, it's always been every time I put the ball in the play, it gives me a better shot getting a hit than obviously striking out. But I just over the years, it's kind of just built up as, like you said, my identity that I don't like striking out, and you're not really gonna see me do it too often. But for me, over these past 2 years, going to my third year now, it's just the strikeouts. Just I hate striking out. That's kind of the main thing. Just putting the ball in play, like I said.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the bat is obviously one of your best tools, but let's talk a little bit about this past summer. It was a big summer for you. So, I mean, you already had a big year at Grand Canyon. You really kind of cemented your name, I guess, in the lights, if that's the saying that you want to use. You go play for USA Baseball. You absolutely crush the competition for USA Baseball. What was that experience like for you playing with some of the top players in the country?
Yeah, for me, I was honestly one of the most fun experiences I've ever had to really been a part of. Going out there, I never really get to play with all these big time names from the SEC because I'm on the West Coast, I'm on the WAC, so we don't really get to really encounter all these special players. So getting over there, kind of meeting these guys, kind of learning from them, and just watching them play was awesome for me. It was like I said, it was the coolest experience I've ever been a part of.
Absolutely. You mentioned the WAC. You mentioned the Grand Canyon. I kind of wanted to talk about your stay there because Grand Canyon is really turning itself into a powerhouse these last few years. That being said, you did spend a couple of weeks during the summer to kind of consider your options, and you decided to go back to Grand Canyon. What is it about Grand Canyon University that had you just saying, I can't leave?
Yeah, for me, I come from a Christian home, so I've always been kind of grown up religiously, and GCU kind of being a religious school was always been the perfect fit for me. It's always somewhat close to home, not too far, like not too close, but kind of right in that perfect range. But over the past 2 years, obviously we've had multiple coaches leave now, with Coach Stankiewicz kind of leaving over this past summer. And then no one remembers, but Coach Wally also left a week before that as well. So for us, at GCU, like we had two coaches, our head coach and assistant coach, leave within a 2 week span. So for us, it was kind of just all trying to wrap our heads around it, like what's going on, what are we gonna do, and going in that portal. I think for most guys, it was just kind of a precautionary thing, just in case we didn't like the new guy that they hired at Grand Canyon. But yeah, for us, it was over the past 3 years. My class that I've been a part of, we've really become a family, especially with every player on the team. It's just been one big family. Like it's just been fun to kind of see it grow on where it once was versus where it's at now. And I think that the people that we have there right now have had a really big factor going into that. So just being able to see where we were versus where we are now has been, honestly, it's been a home for us.
Absolutely. No, that's a good answer. I wanted to talk a little bit about what your winter looks like. It's December 20th when we're recording this. Where are you looking to improve? I mean, where does Jacob Wilson need to kind of see his game tick up going into 2023, whether that's in the weight room or training or on defense. What's your plans here for the next few months as you look to improve?
Yeah, so once fall ended, I took a little break, obviously from baseball. Just I think it was about 2 weeks. I was like, I don't really want to touch a bat or ball. I'm gonna, you're gonna be doing that from January all the way to June, whenever your season ends. So for me, I was like, I'm gonna give myself 2 weeks off, just kind of relax, still lift a little bit, but not really do too much baseball activity. So once those 2 weeks ended, which I just kind of started up over this past week, once I got home. So once I got home, and kind of just ground balls, hitting, all that stuff, kind of getting back in the rhythm and things. So, don't lose kind of all that training that I did during fall. But my main thing that I'm kind of doing right now is just I want to get in the weight room, obviously get stronger. I think that's every college baseball player's goal is to get stronger. And for me, it's really getting with a personal strength coach to really help me with my running. I want to get my times down to first base. I want to kind of get that twitchiness on defense and kind of running the bases. For me, it's like that's my main thing that I've been working on, along with strength and kind of just repertory swings, repertory ground balls, kind of everything, just everything baseball right now is I'm starting to get back into being locked in.
Absolutely. You mentioned Twitch, you mentioned ground balls. I would be remiss not to ask you what it was like growing up under your dad, Jack. 12-year big league career, just an absolute standout defender of his era. What's it like kind of being coached up and fathered by Jack Wilson? How was your childhood different than, some of your peers?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, growing up with kind of a big league dad is not really seen too often. You don't really kind of encounter those guys too often, just because how hard it is to be a big leaguer. So for me, ever since I was born, I was always kind of raised in a going to the clubhouse with my dad, going to the field, kind of doing all this baseball activity. I was kind of born into the game of baseball. So because when I was born, my dad was in the big leagues playing. So just from a young age, I found a love for baseball. Is what I kind of tell everybody. Just kind of being born right into it and kind of just going to games every day to go watch my dad play. I know when I was young, it didn't really mean that much to me. I was just like, it's just my dad playing baseball. But now, like, kind of looking back on it, I realized how cool that was, being able to grow up in that atmosphere. So, obviously with him coaching me, obviously he was a great defender. So when it came to defense, kind of pretty much anything about baseball, I've always just went to him because he was dad and he was also, big league dad. So just learning from him my entire life. I mean, I'm still learning from him to this day. So it's been really cool to kind of grow up learning from him about, everything that he learned while playing in the big leagues.
Absolutely. So Grand Canyon, you guys have really started to, especially for the smaller schools in the country, if you want to call it smaller, you guys have really begun to really tap into the data side of things, the tech side of things, kind of training through tech. How much of that do you like to employ? The blast motion, the K vests, TrackMan, hit tracks. Is that something that you really appreciate, or coming from Jack Wilson, for example, are you a feel guy? Like, how do you like to train?
Yeah, so I think all this technology that's really kind of being implemented into the game I think it's really cool. For me personally, I've never really used any of it as much. I think for me, the most that I've gone is just watching videos. Obviously, you have kind of the video sources to watch pitchers and watch hitters and kind of see what their consistencies are. But for me, I've never really gone into a bunch of data stuff like the blast motion stuff. I've never really gone into that to kind of look at my swing a little bit. For me, it's always just been about feel. And with my I had my dad was an old school baseball player. So he just kind of went out there. He didn't use that much technology because there wasn't too many when he was playing. And then I had a head coach, Andy Stankwitz, also an old school baseball player. So for me, I've never really been taught the, I guess, technology side of baseball. So for me, it's always just been watching film, kind of going to the cage to work on my swing, not really rely on technology too much, which, I mean, that's just how I was growing up. So I think the technology stuff's really cool and I do want to get into it one day, but right now for me, it's just been video and cage. That's all I've really kind of looked at so far.
I dig it. I figured that much with your dad being Jack. I got a good question for you, kind of along the same lines. Who was the player that you idolized growing up? And it can't be your dad. And I'll give you a bonus question.
Yeah.
Who was the player you idolized, and did it bother your dad that it wasn't your dad?
All right. So growing up, it wasn't really another baseball player I really idolized as much. I think once I got older, I think right now for me, the main guy that I watch is Dansby Swanson. I love kind of watching him play shortstop, watching him play the game. Obviously, going back and watching kind of his college baseball clips is really cool to me. Kind of idolize him, kind of want to be like him. So My dad also loves him. He thinks he's a great shortstop, great baseball player. He works hard, all that stuff. So he likes Andrew Swanson too, and that's kind of been my guys for the past couple years now.
I dig it. No, there's definitely some similarities between your guys' games for sure.
Mhm.
All right, so we'll leave you with a couple kind of silly questions at the end, but I wanted to ask, since you had so many at bats this summer against top tier competition,
Mhm.
was there a single pitch that stands out as like that's nasty? Like that is a different level of nasty that you saw at USA.
Yeah, I think for as a hitter, the guy that I really kind of stuck out with by a pitch that I saw was Tanner Hall's sinker. It was pretty disgusting. It was one of the cooler pitches I've ever seen as a hitter. Obviously, you have like the Braden Montgomery fastball. Comes in pretty hard. It's not slow. So those two guys right there were pretty special guys. But I think the guy that I got to play defense for that I really liked watching a lot was Rhett Lauder. Kind of his sinker slider movement that he got is pretty it's pretty unbelievable. It's really hard as a hitter to kind of go up against him and be successful. So those guys right there are really, talented individuals.
I dig it. I dig it. All right. Hey, let's end with a few kind of crazier questions here. Get away from the baseball field a little bit. So one thing I like asking guys is obviously you watch a lot of pro baseball. You've been around the game since you were really little.
Mhm.
Who's the guy in the big leagues right now? Who's one pitcher that you'd really love to take an at bat against?
I think for me, that's actually a great question. Looking kind of at the big league side, I think not even just as a hitter, I would obviously looking at the Grom and be like, that would be pretty obviously insane to kind of go up and face him. So I think going off him, just kind of see what it's like and what these big leaguers are looking at. I think that guy for me would be kind of surreal to kind of just watch how he works, how his stuff moves, and kind of how good he really is. So I think that guy for me is really someone I would kind of love going to watch kind of pitch in the box.
So you don't see 94-mile-an-hour sliders nightly?
No, yeah, no, occasional Friday night. Yeah.
Yeah, the occasional Friday
Yeah,
night guy.
yeah.
Another unique question just for you.
Mhm.
I'm assuming growing up, you got to travel a little bit, at least from city to city when you guys moved, but also for away games. Did you happen to have a city that stood out during your travels as a city that you particularly enjoyed?
Yeah, I think main answer is kind of New York. I guess
Hmm.
it's New York. It's one of the cooler cities. You get to go there. You have all that. Obviously, you have the whole history thing with the Yankees, the Mets, all that stuff. But just that city is kind of unbelievable. Just being able to. I did travel a lot with my dad, but I think by far the favorite city that I got to kind of just go visit for a weekend was definitely New York City.
Is there a landmark in New York that kind of stands out?
Oh, I mean, Statue of Liberty has always been one of the cooler things. I've been there a couple of times, but besides, I think it's just the entire city as a whole, just being able to kind of go look at all that stuff, and the history behind it was really special for me, and kind of my dad going to it was cool for him as well.
Yeah, cool. All right, last question for you. We'll get you out of here. We always end with this question, and I need to start warning people before I ask it. But
Mhm.
what's the one random fact that you know about anything on Earth that not a lot of people know that's unique
Oh, about myself or just kind of anything?
about anything?
Wow. All right. I honestly, wow, that's actually a really tough question. Let's see. I found out the other day that NASA stands for National Aeromatics of Space Association. So that's kind of the one thing I didn't really know that before. I looked it up the other day when I drove by, but that's kind of what NASA stands for. So that's the one fact I got.
You know what's interesting? We get a lot of space related facts. I think space is just
Really,
one of those. I think it's just one of those topics that people dive into. It's
for
kind of,
sure.
it's so
Yeah.
big. It's so big.
Mhm.
All right, man. Jacob Wilson, Grand Canyon University. We'll see if anybody can strike you out this year. I mean, let's say you feasibly improve. What are you going to strike out 4 times this year? And three
That's
will be
kind
an
of the goal.
accident.
Yeah, for me, I don't want to go down from where I was. So that's the goal. I'm working on it. Just trying to kind of see what I can do.
I dig it. I dig it. Jacob Wilson, Grand Canyon University. Excited to see what the spring looks like. And I think big things are coming for both GCU and your family in July. We'll see what happens.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me again.
All right, man.